No.
Not yet.
Why did they do that? I don't know. That's the first time they've done that.
I'm going to go ahead and start now anyway. Hey!
There you go.
Hello!
Turn it up.
Hey, oh, there goes your ears. Hey guys, my name is Kory. I go by MovieDude18 on Twitter and Instagram. This is my 6th film here that I'm showing at the Chinese Theater. I've been doing this for a couple years now, and I've run everything from She's All That and Varsity Blues to Mortal Kombat, Power Rangers, and now, honestly, probably my favorite franchise of all time, so Resident Evil. Sorry for starting a little late, but yeah, you guys, I started off at the New Beverly, Quentin Tarantino's theater, and then moved to the New Art, and now I moved here, and I'm going to have to give some shout outs first because I'm going to miss them. Scarlett, I don't know if she's here. Yeah, I don't know. Hi, Perfect Scarlett. The cosplayers, all of you. You guys united like insanely when you guys got together on Facebook and I was being tagged in groups in every which way, like 3 ways from Sunday. And this movie here, it came out when I was 12. And on that same day that it came out, the theater back home ran midnight movies. And the midnight movie also starred Mila Jovovich, which was Dazed and Confused. Woo! Yeah! And so I was a 12-year-old kid working a projection room watching Resident Evil and Dazed and Confused. So that was kind of my childhood. This is really personal to me because I wrote a 5th grade paper about the director of this movie and the writer of this movie. The assignment was who do you want to be? Like when you had to pass on from 5th grade and life gets really hard. I wrote a paper about him, and now he's come to my screenings and he's been nothing but a cool person and everything you hoped that an idol would be. And I want to give a huge shout out. Her name is Sarah. That's that lady right there. Seriously, huge hand. None of you would be here, including myself, if it wasn't for her. And she is an assistant to Paul and the most amazing person I've ever worked with these events. She's been just kick-ass. In fact, she was so kick-ass that she called me a few days ago, and I ran this. Who saw the Facebook pages, like on the stuff? Like raise your hand because I told you there was a giveaway today. She got 7 copies of the final chapter, which just came out, courtesy of Sony. They gave us 7 copies of the final chapter, and 7 copies of the first Resident Evil, which is really funny because my favorite's the first one, but I think the best one is actually the final chapter. So I did a thing where I told you to send in your ticket stubs, a way of sharing it, promoting that you're coming, you're excited. And we have 7, and I'm going to read them really fast. And my friend Rich over here, wherever he is, he's going to hand them to you. So if you send in on your ticket stub, you're going to get
handing out the original or the new one?
The final chapter and the first one
Ooh.
on Blu-ray. Okay? So this is obviously fine kitchenware from my house. Big lots. Okay. Is Kurt Lucero here? That's you? Alright. Go up there. Alright. There's one. Brandon Liu.
Woo! Let's hear it!
Okay. Joshua Ryan. Jack Morito.
Jack!
And then,
You gotta say bingo.
just to make sure everyone was not throwing the best buy if I get the copies. Hector Vasquez. Going once.
Throw it on the ground.
Poor Hector.
was saying this last one I can't name. Josh Query?
Josh?
No?
Spell it.
Josh, okay. Jau something something QUI.
Josh isn't here. No?
Violetta Renee?
Yeah! She's here.
Renee, and how many do you have left?
Rich?
I think that's last. We have 2 more sets. 2 more sets? Okay.
I'm right here.
Fake Mila.
Ah, yes!
Fake Mila. Fake Mila.
Alice, Alice.
Larry, I love your last name.
Yeah,
Larry
fake
Blizzard.
Sheila.
All right.
Alright guys, let's get this interview going. Alright, let's just start this off with, we have 2 people from the movie here. Like I said, one of them personal idol, but nothing but just a badass nerd dude. Please welcome Paul W.S. Anderson. And then I met this guy once when I was at the final chapter screening, and I was very excited to hear his name that he wanted to pop up and be a part of tonight. He is a 6-time producer, as Paul is a 6-time writer, 4-time director. Mr. Jeremy Bolt. So first off, today is kind of an interesting day. This was not booked by, it was booked by coincidence that the final chapter came out today on home video. So it's been 15 years and today is really kind of the end of it all, or maybe, we'll find out. But no, this movie came out when I was 12. I saw it opening day in the afternoon, and I was actually a big fan of the game because my older brother played it. But were you guys a fan of the game, playing it, starting? I mean, I know you played it, but like, how hardcore were you at playing the game?
He was the very definition of hardcore. I mean, I couldn't get hold of him. He was playing it so much.
Yeah, I disappeared for 2 weeks, and I was locked away in my apartment by Jeremy was very worried. Some people thought something had happened to me, and I was just playing Resident Evil. I played the first 2 games, became obsessed with it, and emerged like 2 weeks later with like 2 weeks worth of stubble and like red staring eyes, looking like I was infected with the T-virus, going, we have to make this into a movie.
What is your favorite game out of like the original 3, would you say? 1 or 2?
For me, the second one.
Yeah, 2.
The second one with the dog jumping through the window in the police station, that was a monumentally good moment. I shrieked.
So Jeremy, were you really an avid player, or did you start playing when you were going to do the movie, or?
No, I was playing before. I wasn't as avid as Paul, but I soon got very into it, and have since become quite an avid gamer.
Do you still play, like, have you played the new one that's the first person, the 7?
I played demos of it very early on.
Yeah, VR.
I haven't played that, and
Yes.
the VR experience, but I haven't played the whole game.
Okay. Yeah.
Now.
Nowadays, you know, I'm a father. I watch my daughter play Minecraft. Well, actually, I watch her watching Dan TDM play Minecraft.
So this film, I know it took a lot of production delays and a lot of things to get done. And you said, really, it's been 17 years for you. It took 2 years to get going. What was the initial process? Because you were no stranger. You had done Mortal Kombat. You had adapted a video game as a director. But what was the beginning point of like, I want to make a movie?
I played the game. I called Jeremy. I said, we have to make this movie. He investigated who had the rights. We were going to go and buy the rights, but we discovered they were already taken by a German company that we knew quite well called Constantin. And they had been developing the movie for 2 years, actually. So they bought it based on the first game. And they've been developing it unsuccessfully. They've had George Romero involved. They've had a couple of other directors as well. And several scripts, none of which they wanted to make. And I came in and I said, I have this great idea, Resident Evil. They said, that's great, but we've spent all of our money. and we don't want to pay for it. So I said, that's okay, I'll write it on spec, which is what we did. Wrote the screenplay, they loved it, we went and made the movie.
And when you actually got the movie made, I'd asked you this about Mortal Kombat. You know, obviously testing a movie helped you added some fight scenes to the film. But I'd always heard a rumor, and I heard you confirm it earlier, but this was actually maybe going to go straight to video. But something happened.
No,
with the test screening.
I'd learned my lesson on Mortal Kombat about test screenings. So we had our first test screening on Resident Evil, and we'd done a deal with Sony in America, which was the only territory that they had the film. Since then, they take the movie for the whole world virtually. But we had a deal where if we didn't score a certain amount in the test screening, they could put the movie straight to DVD. So it was a very stressful screening for us. And it was the first time Sony had seen the film. And you know, we held on to the movie for a long time to make sure it was as good as it could be, because we knew how important that test screening was. And we were all very nervous. Everyone from Sony was there. The cinema was packed. We showed it in Burbank. And at the start of the movie, there's a scene where a woman in an elevator is about to get her head chopped off. And just as it's about to happen, you cut to black and you hear the sound of the decapitation. And this guy sitting right in front of me stood up, like, I love this movie! And the whole audience erupted into cheers. And at that point, Jeremy and I looked at one another, and it's like, we're going to be okay. We're not going straight to video.
Yeah, I turned around and all the executives from Sony were just grinning.
You could see the dollar signs like you hear in their eyes. And then in Mila's first scene, she gets out of the shower and puts on a bathrobe, and a different person stood up and went, a nipple! and another massive cheer and another dollar sign went up in the Sony guy's eyes. And we thought, you know, how stupid of us as filmmakers, we should just hire people to do that in all of our movie tests. I mean, how expensive can it be?
Add a nipple at the beginning. That's off well.
Yeah, but we learned lessons on Event Horizon, Soldier, and Mortal Kombat, not to test until the very latest place possible in the post-process, because, and you're under I was under massive pressure to force Paul to allow us to test, but you just shouldn't, because the audience need to see it as finished as it can be. Because if you have a bad test, literally as a filmmaker, you just see your career just fall apart.
No, yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is I've been sneaking into test screenings. I say I'm a psychology major, even though I look like a filmmaker. And sometimes, like, I saw the new Beauty and the Beast back in August of last year. And it's like, how can you really even judge? The CGI is like 10% done.
Yeah.
You can't figure that out.
But I think it's different for those kind of movies, because that's such a big machine, and it's Disney, and it's Beauty and the Beast. They know they're going to figure it out. They're not worried about that.
Yeah.
So they're looking for, like, did you understand the plot? Do you understand the French accents? You know, it's stuff like that. You know, the danger is when it's a movie like this, you know, where it's Beauty and the Beast was always going to be released with a massive advertising campaign. Film like this, you know, the studio decides at the test screening how much of a push they're going to give you. You know, because it's expensive to release a movie, and you know, maybe they decide they're going to spend $20 million on your P&A, maybe it's going to be $40 million. And of course, if you spend, you get a bigger opening. So we learn to screen when you're ready as the filmmakers, because the studio will always tell you, "Oh, don't worry, we understand." Well, they don't. You know, they understand if you get good test results, but if you get a bad test result, suddenly they don't understand so good. Well, they understand that you messed up and made a bad movie.
It's all your fault.
Yeah.
Well, the biggest thing about the first Resident Evil that I actually love about the franchise was creating Alice as a character. You know, she wasn't in the game, to be fair, but the thing is she's not Jill. We get to meet those people later on. But what was this idea about kind of creating new characters that weren't exactly in the game in the first film?
Capcom wouldn't allow us to kill characters that they wanted to continue to use in the franchise. And, you know, this is a horror movie, action horror, people have to die. You know, and, you know, I felt I didn't want to do a straight adaptation where just the people who died in the video game died, because then if you played the game there would be no suspense. You know, it'd be like going in to see the first Alien movie, if someone before you went and saw the movie told you exactly the order that people are going to die in, and that Sigourney Weaver lives at the end, you know, would rob that movie of its suspense.
Yeah, and speaking of which, on the final chapter Blu-ray, there's this thing called retaliation mode, and I'd always wondered that, and there's questions like that about that, and I think that's a solid answer. I'd always kind of wondered why, but yeah, if Jill's in this game and she, or so
Well, you know
she
she's
dies.
safe, because
Yeah,
if you
she's
kill
safe.
her, then every fan goes, wait a second, Jill doesn't die. You know, having fresh characters gave us fresh meat, and so you really, and I think in this movie there are some really surprising deaths. There are characters that die that you don't expect to, and you know, Mila, her character Alice, was in danger, you know, because nobody knew who she was. You know, we could have killed her, we chose not to, but we could have killed her if we wanted.
Now, with the casting, there's two standouts. Obviously Mila. So how did that casting and the audition go? But also with Michelle Rodriguez, because she's awesome too. Jeremy, what was your input, and Paul, how did it all start with Mila?
Mila actually sought us out because I think her brother was playing the game a lot, and she got really excited and found out there was a film being made, and she reached out to us and requested to meet.
Yeah, so she was excited to be in the movie, and obviously we were big fans of hers. And the same with Michelle. She was really excited about the idea of the movie, and she'd just been in Girl Fight in the first Fast and the Furious movie.
Yeah, the Fast and Furious hadn't come out.
So we had like two really like hot women that really wanted to be in the movie. So who are we to argue?
Well, I was at Sundance and saw Girl Fight where it premiered and met her. And I think I called him and said, this is the perfect contrast to Mila. And you know, one of the things Paul really wanted to do was have strong female characters in the film. And you know, you can see it in both Mortal Kombat and Event Horizon, and even in Soldier. As a filmmaker, he likes powerful, strong women and empowering them. So the idea of having two strong women, that's really the lead of the film, was actually pretty bold back then. Not a lot of people were doing that.
No, yeah, I mean that was something that they had asked questions about, and I also love like the Newt reference and like Retribution with the little girl. Like, you know, it's very cool to see that. You know, did Michelle, she was still unknown at the time. She had only filmed Fast and Furious, but it hadn't been released, right?
No.
Yeah, that's right.
No, it hadn't been released.
Okay. Now moving into the ending with that epic, like I still think it's probably the top 5 epic endings of all time in Resident Evil, which, spoiler, but you know, that when she walks out of that thing and you see that shot, how did you even pull off that shot? Like, what was the concept behind it? Did you know you were going into like this franchise, this vehicle with Jeremy? Did you know that it was going to be a sequel guaranteed, or?
No, I think it came more from a love of 1970s movies that didn't have kind of closed endings. You know, I always liked movies that had an open ending, where you came out of the movie cinema and you discussed it. You know, do you think she'll live? Well, will she just get eaten straight away? What's that world like? You know, I like movies where you talk. So it wasn't, you know, it wasn't like, oh, now we're going to make a sequel necessarily. It was more just to kind of give it an open ending.
Okay, so there's been 6 films now. So Jeremy, what is your favorite, and what do you think is the best of the franchise?
My favorite is the first one, and I think the last one is the best. The most difficult one was number 3 for me.
Why was Extinction so hard?
Because Jeremy crashed his golf cart and spent half the movie in a neck brace.
Yeah, it was difficult.
Hey, your seatbelt, Jeremy.
Yeah.
You rode a golf cart in the desert?
It wasn't a golf cart, it was a dune buggy thing.
Yeah.
It was a bit more macho than a golf cart.
I drove it very fast. Now the heat in the desert, the rattlesnakes, it was very, very tough shooting conditions. But I think the last one is the best.
What about you, Paul?
I agree with Jeremy. I mean,
I think we all 3 agree.
I mean, it's, you know, for me, I mean, the first one I have massive affection for, because without that movie there wouldn't be a franchise. You know, it was a monumental movie for us. But I think, you know, the last movie is the most polished. I think it's the most technical. I think it's the most emotional. You know, and I think the kind of franchise grew up as we grew up. You know, I think the final movie is a much more mature piece of work than the first film.
It is. I agree. 1 and 6 are just bomb. Now, with these 6 films, there's many characters in the Resident Evil game world. I mean, there are many villains, many dogs that want to bite you, kill shot, all these things. But was there ever characters that were iconic in the game that you and Jeremy talked about? Because these guys have been friends for apparently 25 years. That you actually sat down and said, no, we should have Jill Valentine in Apocalypse, or no, we should hold her off, or we should put Ada Wong in 3, you know, or was there ever a time that you really wish you had said, no, we should have added that character in that one?
No, I think we went with the fan favorites, which is what we did with the monsters as well. You know, that's why the dogs are in the first film, because everyone loved the dogs, because everyone loved that moment in Resident Evil 2. And I think we went kind of in order of how much the fans loved the character. I mean, everyone wanted to see Jill Valentine, and once she was in, everyone wanted to see Claire Redfield. And then once you've introduced Claire, you have to meet her brother, right? So it kind of evolved organically like that.
Now,
and then once we made a lot of money in China, we had to have Ada Wong.
Well, that's like, what was your reaction? I mean, you guys should know that the movies did better and better. 2 did better than 1, 3 did better, and so on. But then, like, the jump from 3, which I do think is beautifully shot, and I mean, well done. It's the first time you see the zombies really zombied. But with the shift in box office, it went from like 100 million to like 302 million. Like it just shifted. What do you think? I mean, that's kind of how the games went. The games went from being creepy, things popping out at you, to kind of action based, like the franchise did. So what do you think made that switch between 3 and 4, where it just went crazy?
I think we made a decision to kind of shift the franchise from being action horror to kind of science fiction thrillers, I would say. I was actually in a hotel and I saw the 4th movie described as a science fiction thriller. And I'm like, that's what we made. That's a pretty good description. Because I think, the movies are described as zombie movies a lot of the time, but there's so much more than that. I think the kind of overarching theme in all of the films is Alice's conflict with the Umbrella Corporation and her struggle. It's like the individual versus the big organization. And there's always been a lot of science fiction themes in the movies. And straight horror only plays well in America. Once you get outside of America, people are not really that interested in horror, but action and kind of like science fiction, much more popular. So I think we altered the balance slightly. And our box office in America stayed relatively the same, between the movies, but it was abroad that the box office exploded.
And there was a story you had told when I was at the Resident Evil Retribution, which was part 5. There was a story you had told because Michelle Rodriguez was obviously in 5, but she wasn't there. She was filming Fast 6. And you had told the story about what Mila had said to you the day of shooting her iconic, her death scene. And I was wondering if you'd share that story again, because it's really funny. You're going to regret it.
Maybe you could share it. I don't know if I remember.
I don't know, he just, apparently,
had a few drinks with that premiere.
Mila and Michelle were so close on set, got on great, that she was such a badass character that if it went into a sequel, it seemed like Mila knew it was going to be a smart choice to keep her alive. And she told you the day of filming her death scene, you're going to regret this.
Everybody tells me that. And no one wants to die, because I think these are fun movies to make. And so I got told exactly the same by Ian Glenn. When we kill him, we chop him up with laser beams in the 3rd movie. And on that day, he said, "Well, Paul, I feel like you're making a little bit of a mistake here. I don't have to be dead." Like, Ian, you get chopped up with laser beams and fall into pieces. You look pretty dead to me. He's like, "Well, it's the Umbrella Corporation. They could always have cloned me." And I'm like, "Whatever. Just go to the set and go and shoot your death scene." And then about 5 years later, I called him because I want him in the last movie. I said, "Hello, Ian," and I hadn't talked to him for years, and he said, "Oh, Paul, I'm glad you're seeing things my way."
Before I turn it over to the audience, Jeremy started off, and then Paul. Whether it's together or whatever, what is the proudest creation that you had from this film? I'm assuming it might be the laser trap room, because that's the coolest thing to me. But was there something that you did in all 6 films? I don't want to spoil the 6th film, but that you did that was like, I'm really proud of that kill more than anyone, more than that. You know what I mean?
Well, the laser corridor in the first scene was like so striking, and it wasn't from the video game. That was something that we brought to the table, and and I think we never reached that level again until maybe in this movie. In the final movie, in the final chapter, there's a scene with Ruby Rose and this giant turbine. I think that's pretty good.
She's very excited to meet Ruby Rose at the premiere. She's my liaison. By the way, thank you to Jennifer. She's the one who lets me do this and like all this stuff. So, what about you, Jeremy? Though, do you have an iconic kind of like, yeah, that was we hit it good?
I think the accident in the shower scene in Red Squall.
Yeah, that's.
I think it's visceral horror, but it's also stunningly beautiful. The 3D and the water. And I think I like the way that it involves Ali Larter and Mila's character.
And they're both soaking wet.
Which is always a good thing.
And then in 5 you're like, what's better than 1 X-Man? 2 X-Men. Okay, so you guys, does anyone have questions, comments, concerns? Yes, up there at the yep, you.
What was the hardest part about filming the movie? Which movie provided the biggest challenge, and what was your favorite part about that challenge? Or least favorite?
I think the hardest part for me is you want to play to your strengths, so you want to deliver in the way the previous movie delivered, but you also have to keep trying to do something different, because you don't want the audience to feel they're getting the same as they've already got. We put a lot of effort into talking about the location for each story, because as film goers, Paul and I always get frustrated when we see a trailer and it just feels like a rehash of the previous movie. We hope with Resident Evil, every time we see the trailer for the next movie, it'll actually feel like a new movie. So we put a huge amount of effort into, Paul's like saying, well, what are the trailer moments? Is this a new location? Mila will be in it, but it's got to feel different. So I'd say that's creatively the big challenge. And then on a producing point of view, the great thing about making something successful is you get to do it again, but it also means the expectation is big and the studio are breathing down your neck. Literally, their bottom line is dependent upon this working, so there's a huge amount of daily pressure. And fielding all their questions about the footage and their comments on costume and makeup and hair. So just managing all of that means that with success comes bigger responsibility, I suppose.
And I agree with the way you're shooting them each in different kind of locations and settings and DP work. That's what also kept the series getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. You were shooting something different every time. Yeah,
well, I was very influenced by the Alien franchise, and being such a huge fan of Alien, I think James Cameron was so smart when he came to do Aliens that he looked at Ridley's movie and he went, well, I can't do any better than that. That's pretty much the best movie like that can possibly be made. So he very smartly made a different movie. He didn't make this chamber piece horror movie, he made an action movie. Still with aliens, but he made a different kind of film and succeeded in a completely different kind of way. And that left a big impression on me. And so I always try to make each of the Resident Evil movies essentially different. The first one I would say is a haunted house film. The second one was much more of an expansive action movie. The third one was very much a road movie, and there's great landscapes. The fourth movie was a siege movie when they were all trapped in the pressure cooker of the prison. The fifth movie was a chase movie where it was just intense chasing throughout the entire film.
All
And the
stars.
sixth movie was, you know, the one that wrapped everything up. So each movie I hopefully delivered a different kind of pleasure and a different kind of thrill to the audience.
You definitely did. I think that's why I love them so much. All of them.
You know, it's like within that, the studio are calling you going, but make sure you do this, this, and this from the last movie, the one that really works. Because they're scared, if you stray too much from the formula, you could mess it up. So you're having to feel that as well as give you guys something different.
Yes,
Do you ever have nightmares about your movies, and what's your connection to memory?
Well, I have nightmares about the opening weekend that it's not going to work. But other than that, I've used Mila's nightmares. Like she had this great dream about falling down an elevator shaft, and she woke up in a cold sweat. Told me about it, very concerned. I'm like, that's good. I could use that. And that's really where the the needle dive sequence in Resident Evil Afterlife came from. That was kind of directly influenced by Mila's bad dreams.
Oh.
Yeah, you right there.
Yeah, were you ever inspired at all by the story of Alice in Wonderland when you were coming up with the first film because of the similarities between like the Queen, Alice, and going to like a rabbit hole?
Yes.
Wow, I didn't
Yeah.
think of that actually.
No, it's the Red Queen's obsessed with chopping people's heads off. They actually also the other Lewis Carroll book, Through the Looking Glass.
Mm-hmm.
In the first movie, they actually literally go through a looking glass to go down into the hole in the ground. Yeah, I mean it's one of my favorite books, and there was a big influence on the franchise. You know, the Kaplan character I always saw as the White Rabbit. He's the character that's obsessed with time. So there's a lot of Lewis Carroll in the first movie, especially.
Yeah, you right there. Oh, hey you.
Hey, I'm just curious, you work together obviously really well through all these movies, and as a filmmaker, I'm just curious how you share your collaborative process, and how is that how you keep together, by always being open to each other's
By
ideas?
shouting at each other a lot.
Is it a lot of healthy arguing? It's good, but it's arguing.
I mean, I think it's, we don't argue very much, we discuss intensely sometimes. No, I mean, it's, we like the same movies. I think that's the key to it. We Alien is a very important movie, Jacob's Ladder, William Friedkin, French Connection. One of the highlights of last year for me was going to see the French Connection with Paul at the DGA, and there was a Billy Friedkin Q&A afterwards.
Wow.
And we're like kids. We're 50-year-old men, but we're like kids again. And I think that kind of love of movies is ultimately what keeps us going through thick and thin. That common ground, it's like a kind of shared belief.
And also, you make movies and you get a lot of notes from a lot of people that you ignore because you don't respect their taste. And I respect Jeremy's taste, and I know that, and he's relentless as well. I mean, we don't argue. It's not like we shout at one another or anything like that. But he'll go, I don't know if that works. And I go, oh, it works. Don't worry about it. Blah blah blah. And then little Amy, well, I'm not sure if that works. and I think that's what's good about our relationship is we challenge one another, and it's all for the good of the movie. And I think as a young filmmaker, especially directors, they're so insecure. I was so insecure. You just want to be right, and it's important to be right. And sometimes you blind yourself to the truth. You just want to be proved right, even if it's the wrong thing to do. And as you get older, I think you kind of appreciate like having somebody who's willing to play the devil's advocate and maybe suggest that you're doing the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. And I think in Hollywood as well, there's a great danger that the more successful you become, the more you surround yourself with people who just tell you what you want to hear. And I've always been fascinated by filmmakers who I love, who you see their latest movie and it's like, wow, it's like they suddenly forgot how to direct. And I think it's because people can get surrounded by a cocoon of just yes people. And it's very, very important to have someone in your life who's willing to say no, are you sure that's a good idea? Constantly challenge you.
Thank you.
Let's do one more. Yep, right there.
In dealing with the studios, and I understand that sometimes they have their own notes and they have their own ideas that they want to kind of impose on you. How do you kind of balance that between kind of pleasing the studio but also not compromising your own vision as a filmmaker?
It's really hard. That doesn't get any easier. I mean,
it's a business, right? And I also firmly believe it's an art form. I really believe movies are an art form, but it's an art form where you have to spend $70 million of somebody else's money. And if you're going to do that, or you're going to spend $5 million of somebody else's money, it's not my money, and you have a responsibility to them to kind of get them their money back and also listen to them. So, as Jeremy said, it doesn't, it's part of the process. And some people are not built for that process, It's very different in Europe, where we come from, where, when you're the writer and the director, you're the most important person on set, you're the auteur, right? You get treated like an auteur. And then you come to, and in France, and anywhere in Europe, really.
Yeah.
And then you come to America as a director, and you realize you're not the most important person on set. You're kind of like about number 12. and actually your lead actress's makeup and hair artist has more say in things than you do. And that's a hard learning lesson. And that's something that you have to deal with.
I mean, one thing we've both learned is you have to make sure you're on the same table with your studio right up front. You almost need a kind of very open conversation where you all agree and you kind of want to have it almost written down, this is the movie we're going to try to make. Because what happens if you don't have that is sometimes they pull the carpet from underneath you, and you discover too late they had a different movie in mind. So that's something I always say to young filmmakers. If you're going to make your movie, make sure that your financiers and you are in sync. Otherwise, you're going to have problems down the line.
Well, that's why I like talking about what the trailer shots are in the movie. Because you can tell from if you read the script, you go, that's a trailer shot, that's a trailer shot. If the studio doesn't think the same as you, then you're not making the same movie.
Yeah.
That's good.
Right, well, I have one last question, and that is the final chapter kind of like the Friday the 13th Part 4 final chapter? or where is, if you end it now, it ends really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to bring the franchise to a close on a high. This is the end. It's not a bait and switch. We're not going to suddenly go out and shoot another one of these movies in 18 months' time. I think this movie, the final chapter, brings the whole franchise full circle and actually connects to the very first movie. And hopefully you watch the final chapter, makes you want to watch the first movie all over again, or the whole franchise all over again. And having closed the circle, it would be stupid for us to do anything else.
Well, I just have to tell you to both Jeremy and Paul, I know, Jeremy, I just met you, but this franchise really is, it might be number one, it's up there, but to have 6 films over the span of 15 years, my teen years, to being an adult and up on the stage with the final chapter coming out today, and the final chapter being the most successful of them all, just proves that you did something very, very right. And every one of those media people asked me the question, what do you love about Resident Evil? And I feel like action movies, especially today, where they're all spy-based or sleuth-based or like twists and turns, and they're 2.5 hours long. I'm very proud of you for never making a movie longer than 2 hours. First off, some things just don't need to be that long. But I just kept saying fun in every answer. I feel like, yes, you don't have to be able to know Algebra 2 or 3 to understand these movies. They're so much fun. They're high octane. They've got badass women in them doing badass things. And then you just have these zombies that got cooler and cooler and cooler. And this really is kind of a cool thing and an amazing thing to have you guys up here to celebrate 15 years with. So, from the bottom of my heart. So,
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Here's the thing. We have a couple things we're going to show really quick, and we also have a trailer to this new horror film that is zombie. It was shot in Mississippi. It's called Kudzu Zombies. And it's going to be at the Abbott film. I forget the name of the. What was it? Just say what it is.
The Aria Theater.
The Aria Theater. And we're going to show that. It's only 1 minute, but anyway, I put a few little things on there to have some fun with. I love the early 2000s. I loved horror back then, and I keep it in tradition. I always like the New Beverly, like Michael Torgenwood. So yeah, let's do that. And thank you guys. Thank you Batcave. Thank you seriously everything. Sarah, Jennifer, David, Amy. You guys are all awesome. Thank you for making these dreams come true.